In a world where nuclear war has begun, vampires fought back in super real 3D.
Eli Crossed the Bear is about to come out. At the time of this release of the video, I'm sure it's already out, and it's hopefully doing well. We released it on Facebook and YouTube, that's the plan. And it's going to come out on Memorial Day, and the subject matter is ultimately about homelessness with vets, but it also kind of transcends past that, I think, into an arena where it touches on homelessness in general in America, which is a very serious subject, and hence we approached this video very different than we approached all the previous videos. The previous videos were honestly more straight rock songs, and we had a lot of fun with doing things that we thought were very cool and fun and funny at times. But this was a serious subject matter, and I wanted it to feel very grounded and real and tangible and a little bit gritty, but also hopeful. So, with the band shots, I went for a very warm feeling. We actually filmed it in Gasoline Alley Studios, which was fun to actually light that place up with pretty much just candles and Christmas lights. There's a little trick to get all that to work, because if you only did it with that amount of light, then it would simply be too dim for the camera to perform well, most any camera. I use Sony cameras, and Sony cameras right now, as of 2016 and 2017, at least this first part, they are the king of low light. They can really do better in low light than really any other brand right now. So that is an advantage to getting Sony cameras over something like Canon. Anyway, so it was a very fun video to do in the respect that it was an opportunity to do something meaningful, and that makes it very fun. And really went out, hit the streets, went up to people that we saw on the streets, asked them if they would be interested in being in a video. They were very into it. The response to be in the video is kind of like the highlight for their day, but then in addition to that, the guys in Eli were super generous and gave them a nice little tip, let's put it that way. And also we sat with them and we talked with them some, heard some of their stories, made sure to give them a meal. A very meaningful day filming, and we knew that it was going to be leading all the way up to it. We actually had filmed the first part in December. We filmed this all the way back in December in the studio, and I got all the band stuff done. And then we were able to return, we had to, logistically, for a lot of different reasons, we returned back to the video shoot for a second day of filming out on the streets in January. So this video has actually been done since February, and it is just now coming out. A lot of people ask me, how long does it take to make a music video? And it really depends on how big the budget is to some extent. I mean, if it's a smaller budget, then really I have to consolidate it down to more performance-based video only. But if there's a big enough budget to enhance it with story aspects in addition to the band playing, that means it's going to be more filming, and it's also more storyboarding. So when I do storyboarding and correspondence back with the band, it's scattered usually over the course of a month or so leading up to the shoot, because I usually book 2 to 3 months in advance. And as we start to collect all that together, if you had to add all those days together, ultimately it usually falls somewhere about a week of correspondence. I mean, a week of writing out storyboard, coming up with a lensing plan, coming up with a shoot location schedule, props list, all that kind of stuff. That usually fills up a whole week to itself. The actual filming is the shortest part. It is usually 1 day up to 3 days. The most days I've dedicated to a music video has been 4 different days. Then you need to bring back all the footage, which I film in such intense codecs that's quite a lot of data to capture and back up 2 additional times, which usually takes a day unto itself, easy, if not a day and a half. Once that's done, then I start organizing and going through all the footage to see what has potential value to be used. I start dissecting it a bit, but I'm still not putting anything together in any particular order. And then, about a week, 7 to 10 days usually, of piecing it together, having all the pieces of your puzzle and kind of stitching it together and creating this thing that you just feel hits on the pocket. It's a lot of footage to go through, and it's a lot of decision making. So that usually takes about 7 to 10 days. And then the final part that I do is the color grade. All in all, it's about a month to make a music video. if you add it all together. And usually that month is scattered across a couple of months just because of that first month of trying to do all the pre-production planning. But the color grade is a very intensive process, and it is the difference between having a completely polished professional project versus, you know, just right out of the cam and running with it. Now, you could say that any film that you see now has been color processed. So in no way is it some like cheating aspect. It's part of making a full product. So, and there's a lot of opportunity to create the entire feel there. You could have a whole sequence laid out, and if you chose to make it warm and inviting the entire time, it's going to feel completely different than black and white. It's going to feel completely different than going cold and blue. It's going to feel completely different, desaturated versus saturated, etc. So you really have a lot of room there, and that's why I film in the beefy codecs that I do. It's ultimately, it looks sharp, it looks very nice, but really it gives you access to push that color spectrum around as much as possible in the color grade, so you have all the opportunities that you'd like to as an editor. So I like every stage. Every stage has its own magic, and honestly, when you move from one stage to the next stage, it refreshes the project for you, rather than kind of just doing the one thing. Like, I couldn't imagine doing only editing or only filming, because honestly it would run its course. I'd start to get a little bit tapped out. I like the changing up. That's also why I like doing all kinds of different projects, from music videos to marketing pieces and branding to documentary stuff to even live events. You know, that variety keeps it very fresh for me. So on the technical side, when it came to deciding on how I wanted to lens it, I wanted to lens it very tight. I wanted to use more so longer lenses. Now, I did use some wide lensing in different shots, but ultimately, for the most part, a lot of it was tighter shots. And the reason for that is that you have a more compressed image, and it feels a little bit more boxed in, and it feels a little bit more, well, kind of trapped. I wanted it to feel a little bit more zoned in, honed in, rather than feeling, when you use wide lenses, I think that creates a big sensation of feeling free. Okay, and I didn't really want that to feel so wide open. I wanted it to feel a little bit more trapped, a little bit more confined. I also didn't do any Ronin shots with this. Ronin is a 3-axis gimbalized stabilization system, gimbal stabilization system that I do use, that I cannot vouch for enough, and it's used a tremendous amount in all my projects. This is the first project since I've gotten the Ronin that I didn't use it once. And the reason for that was because I didn't want it to feel so studio-esque. I didn't want it to feel polished. I didn't want it to feel smooth. In fact, I barely used a tripod. I used most shots on the shoulder and shaky intentionally, so that way it would feel a little bit more unstable. I wanted there to be an unstable sensation to it, because, you know, these people don't have homes. They don't have a foundation that's solidly locked in, and so hence I'm pulling the camera off, and I didn't want solid grounded shots. Now, if you do see some of those, most of those would take place with the band in a more solid environment, and that's where I chose to light things more warm. And when I came to filming outside, that was natural lighting, so I didn't choose that. But when it came to the color spectrum, for the most part, I kind of stuck with it a little bit more desaturated, a little bit colder, and then I kind of played with the colors a little bit towards the end. It gets a little bit more saturated in areas because I wanted it to grow and feeling a little bit more hopeful. You know, at first it starts off a little saturn, and then I wanted it to feel a little bit hopeful and hopefully pass on the inspiration to contribute towards helping these people. So, you know, all the proceeds all the profits made from the downloads off of this song that people purchase off of iTunes, the band is dedicating that to homeless vets. They're dedicating it to charity. So that's pretty awesome. And it's a really big desire that they have, that they want to contribute on that level. And so anyway, hopefully the video is doing well. Like I said, I'm filming this a couple of days before it actually launches. It comes out on Monday. And please do share it, if nothing else, you know, just for the purpose of what it's trying to talk about. And if people purchase the song, it's going towards charity. So it's all around a good cause. It was a great project to be a part of. Very different than any of the Eli videos I've done to date. And I love every video I've gotten to do with them. I mean, they are a blast to make, and they all have their own mojo to them that just keeps me, it keeps it fresh and entertaining. So it's fun stuff. Later in the month is going to be the Maharaja Flamenco Trio. That video is hopefully going to come out, it looks like, I believe, on June 15th or somewhere about there. And that was a really fun video, completely different, and I'll talk about that later when we get closer to the date. Take care, guys. Do check out the YouTube channel if you kind of dig this. I'm putting them on Facebook right now just so you guys know, because Facebook doesn't push YouTube videos very much at all anymore. That's a video I'd like to talk about later. But if you hop over to YouTube, you can hop on the subscription, and then you'll actually know when each of these come out, and that's where they're really archived. So take care, guys. Bye.
Movie Voice.